Loved that party the other night. It was really great. They've really, the young lady running the thing from Rafik,
Yeah.
that was really good. They've got that space in the front. I loved Rafik.
Oh,
Did you know him well or not?
No, I never met him.
Oh, he was a great guy. He
I
really
knew
was.
you knew him.
Oh, I knew Rafik really well. I can remember he used to, he was Palestinian. And he had that thing where all the art community, the visual artists, or the editing and everything, would find themselves at Rafik at one time to make transfer and
Jonas
everything.
Menkes was a big
Joseph Menkes would have been a great supporter in that, but everybody knew Rafik. It was great, and the young ladies following it. Anyway, welcome. Welcome very, very much to Conversation. A pleasure. We're just reminiscing here a little bit about a party of a couple of days ago that was honoring, among others, Ron Rocheleau, who is our guest. He's one of, I would like to say, he's one of MNN's own. He has a program that those of you who view might be able to see 1:30 in the early morning, and it's called Concrete TV. And he is an editor and an artist extraordinaire. We were at an opening with him with some of the best collection of people that I've run into in a long time. Ron, it's so good to see you, and welcome to Conversation.
Thanks for having me, Harold.
My pleasure. We've done a program in the past. We've known each other a long time. We're just reminiscing about, for those in the audience who have, Rafik, who was a great person. It was down at Rafik's studio that we had this party. But Ron, share with us a little bit. We're going to show some clips and so forth from some of your video work, and also you're getting involved seriously in art now. And so we're going to show some of that later on in the program. But could you show your own background? It sounds a little bit French, Rocheleau, if I'm not mistaken. But could you, Rocheleau?
No, Rocheleau.
Rocheleau.
Yeah.
Oh, Rocheleau. I'm sorry.
My relatives came over, like in the, as far as I understand. There's some Native American, of course, with most French Canadians, which is my heritage. Came over in the 1500s to French Canada.
Way back. Yeah.
You know, trappers and a couple of mayors and some cops and some bakers and farmers, that kind of thing. And then my parents actually, and their parents came over to New Hampshire to work in the factories, which were kind of famous. People don't really, you know, it's the Lynn, Lawrence, Lowell, Manchester, they're all part of this.
In the United States.
Yeah,
what is now the United States. It wasn't up in Canada or something.
No, they came over the border to work in factories.
Right, I see, yeah, right. Mill towns, yeah.
Yeah, my mother's family, I think it come over to work like in the Detroit area back in the day, and then migrated over to New Hampshire. And my father's parents came right across the border from Quebec province to come to New Hampshire to work in the factories as well.
Right.
And although I think my great grandfather, my great godfather actually, was the first French Canadian cop.
Really?
In my hometown, Manchester, New Hampshire, which is the largest city in New Hampshire, which is like 100,000 people.
Yeah.
Where I grew up. But he was the first French Canadian cop. And
That's pretty in.
Fought his way in and fought his way
Among
up.
all those Irish, were there a lot of Irish as
Irish.
elsewhere? Irish or the police?
All
yeah.
Irish. And
Interesting how they have those.
And I saw a photograph, and he's the biggest, burliest guy in the photograph. I heard he was a real bad person.
A real bad cop, right?
Well, badass. Yeah.
Badass, yeah. Well, that goes with the territory. What was the family like and everything? Were they workers? Were they professional? What was the setting?
My father was it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
My father was a bodybuilder and a truck driver, which kind of goes together.
Yeah, I guess it could.
And a physique guy, and actually he had, during the Pacific conflict, he drove a bulldozer and a truck. He was with the Seabees.
Yes.
Yeah, the fighting Seabees.
We're the Seabees of the Navy.
Yeah, they had a really cool logo.
Yeah, right. They had a song. We can build and we can fight. We'll pave the way to victory and fight with all our might.
Oh, that's a good song.
And I swear that we will always remember the 7th of December. We're the Seabees of the Navy, bees of the 7 seas.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Seabee. Yeah. They were the ones who built a lot of the stuff. There was a lot of engineering talent and everything goes in there. Yeah.
Well, the only thing I had ever seen, there was a movie back in the 40s called The Fighting Seabees. And I kind of envisioned my dad as like driving a bulldozer with a Tommy gun shooting at the Japanese. But
yeah,
he was.
That was the last war when the whole nation was really 1,000% in on the war in terms of.
Well,
that.
in a sense, yeah. But it turns out that my dad avoided conflict.
Yeah, well, I would too if I had. He was a smart man, right?
He didn't like to get hurt. At all.
Right,
Like,
right.
I mean. To building up his body, not punching holes in it or getting hurt.
Right.
But he supposedly taught bodybuilding and whatnot, and actually hung around or knew Jack LaLanne.
Jack LaLanne is famous, yeah.
Yeah, so my dad hung out with him in Muscle Beach in California.
Oh, really?
For a while. Yeah.
You got out in California for a while. The family
my dad did. Not the family. It was
family
before I was around.
Before you were around.
I think before my father settled down. But he actually, they were both. It was a teen romance or a teen sweepaway where he actually showed up. This is a story I got anyway. Yeah. He actually showed up in a convertible with a raccoon tail on the antenna and swept my mother.
That would do it back in the 40s. Yeah, that would be
swept
really.
my mother off her teenage feet, and they ran off and had a horrible, conflicting, dangerous, fighting kind of relationship.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Then, as a child, all I remember is a lot of screaming and carrying.
Oh, that's true. I don't like that. I mean, but anyway, I'm sorry. It's sort of a little tough. You have brothers and sisters and stuff?
Yeah, there's four of us. But my father was a good Catholic, and even though my mother had some problems, there would have been 8 of us had they all lived.
Really?
But there's a couple of stillborns, and a brother I actually remember because he died when he was about 9 months. The only one that. There were a pair of stillborn twins, a stillborn single, and then my brother who died when he was 9 months old with spinal meningitis.
Wow, that's really sad, yeah.
And I do remember him, though. I remember standing by the side of the crib and seeing him and stuff. And but my father would have, if they hadn't got divorced, and I think my mother hadn't gotten her, I don't know, had tubes tied or whatever, he would have continued probably having, or attempting to have children until my mother died as like a crazy Catholic.
A crazy Catholic, right.
So I grew up with the crazy Catholic thing. I grew up with the very vain father. And I think my mother,
was there violence and stuff and loud talking
lots
and
of
fighting?
And there's rumors that my father, who seemed like the nicest, sweetest guy in the world if you met him on the street or at a party, because I had friends meet him and they'd always be like, "Oh, your dad's so sweet." Yeah. But he had a really bad temper, supposedly.
Right?
Yeah, I have a really bad temper as well.
You do? I've not seen your bad temper, have I?
I seem like a really sweet guy.
You do, yeah. You carry it very well. You camouflage yourself so well.
I lose my nut, though.
Beneath this calm exterior, there beats the heart of a
ballistic psycho when I get really angry.
Yeah, you are. Well, you're creative as all get out. So I know that.
Happens.
Was the family creative, art and that kind of stuff? Or when did you pick up on it?
Everybody in my family, in terms of my brothers and sisters, and did something. I started out as a cartoonist, and both my brothers were a cartoonist. And
really?
My sister used to paint a lot. Now she knits and she makes rugs.
Yeah.
My brother, one of my brothers who's crazy, he stole cartoons, I believe.
Stole?
Well, no, he stole cartoons.
Oh, still cartoons. I'm sorry, I wasn't sure. I thought you stole cartoons.
Yeah, he doesn't show them to people, and he's very odd to talk to. And then my other brother is a civil engineer for the federal government.
Okay, yeah. Cartooning is a real art form, like Crumb and that. And,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. And they had great stuff in the 60s, and it's really a great art form.
Well, I was pretty committed to it.
And you were drawing that.
Yeah, I was very committed to cartooning and belonged to like a cartooning association when I lived in Phoenix for a while. And I actually went to college to learn how to cartoon better.
Where'd you go to college and where'd you study?
University of New Hampshire, just for a BA in
art?
Studio art.
Yeah. Studio art, okay.
In art education.
Yeah, you're definitely an artist, yeah.
And so I actually wanted to be an art school teacher or art teacher, and it just didn't work out.
It didn't work for you to be a teacher, right?
Well, I'm not really good at
teaching?
Being organized.
Being organized.
And getting up early.
Yeah, I know. That early morning stuff. Do you ever have an 8 o'clock class?
I still have a hard time getting up early.
I hate the morning. I just do. All those birds making a racket and everything. They just, I agree with you.
I have a hard time. I don't mind I get up at pretty much every day at 8:30.
You do?
Yeah, but to go to school, you have to get up at 7.
Yeah, and all that. I never liked school. I never liked school, I don't think, until... Anyway, that's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But it was Manchester, it was New Hampshire, New England, right?
Yeah.
And then you got, I hear you say you got to Arizona. Did you have to go, you went to college in there?
Well, I started college in Arizona. I went to Arizona State University just for like 1 semester.
It was in art again?
Well, I didn't know what. Then I was just taking some like remedial classes, and then I went to Phoenix. I actually went to like 5 schools.
Did you? Okay, well, that's cool. That's cool. You get a
5.
variety.
I went to 5 schools for 6 years and got 1 degree. so it wasn't necessary, but it was interesting. So I went to Arizona State University. I went to Phoenix College. I went to Merrimack Community College. I went to the University of New Hampshire. This is the order. University of New Hampshire, and then I went to Norwalk Community College because I forgot a class. I was 1 credit short.
Of getting the BA, right?
Yeah, I had to go back to like Norwalk Community College for a...
Do you remember what the class was?
Yeah, it was geology.
Okay, you had to get grounded. You had to get grounded.
I had to take a science class.
Yeah,
so I took
right.
geology. You learned about plate tectonics and
right.
stuff. Which
interesting.
Which oddly enough, plate tectonics then was controversial.
Yeah, now it's not. Yeah,
No,
it was a new idea.
Yeah,
and you were creative always. You were doing the cartooning. Were you on the creative side? Were you Were you Were you interested in everything or not? Or were you interested intellectually? Were you autodidactic? Were you teaching yourself?
Well,
were you intellectually curious in that?
I think all study and whatever is all autodidactic because it has to go through your head.
Right. That's
someone
the most
really
important
can't
thing.
teach you. They can kind of show you what to look at.
I know. Right. That's what I think too. I agree.
I don't really think anybody can teach you. I think the thing that I always heard about teachers was that you could be a good inspiration or a bad inspiration. You know, but I think in terms of learning, if you see that when anybody's cramming for a test or cramming for an exam or getting their PhD for an example, when you go for a PhD, you have your doctorate. You know, you work on your thesis, and you never see your professor. Except once in a while. I mean, no one teaches you anything, and it's funny that the higher level of education you go, the less human contact you can probably have.
Well, I think there's truth to that. Although writing too is very singular. Artists can be singular.
You can just paint. I mean,
you can be if you're all caught up in it. But at the same time, it's a calling, and then also they specialize. So it's too bad. If you're interested in everything, like I'm interested in everything, and the way everything... so they should have a university, at the university, they should have a class in everything.
University?
Yeah, universal university. That's it, because everything is interrelated, and everything is interesting, and they specialize. And that's the way the world gets broken down. You get specialized down, and when you do a dissertation, you're supposed to do... I happened to do one that I was really interested in. It had meaning, and it related to a larger... things. Geography is of that nature and everything like that. It's interconnected with other things. But they will have a class and you'll do a dissertation on the use of the pluperfect. I use an example. Use of the pluperfect tense in 13th century poetry in the southwest corner of one of the provinces of France. It gets so specialized.
What's pluperfect?
And Fuller...
Before you go any further, pluperfect. What the heck is it?
It's a verb. It's a conjugation of a verb. It's one of the conjugations of the verb. But anyway, it's a thing that you study when you're doing Latin and all that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
It's no big deal. But anyway, the thing is, you get so specialized, and Fuller used to be a hero of mine. I don't know if you cottoned on to him or not, but he was a comprehensivist.
Bucky
was great.
Bucky in the bullet car.
And he used to say that the guys who run the world, you've done some geopolitical thinking, I can see from talking to you and so forth, Karl Haushofer and that. But he said the people who run the world, they would give money to consciously give money to the establishment of graduate schools so that the bright ones coming up would get so specialized out rather than thinking about the interrelationship of everything the way they do, and thus could never become a threat to the power claims that the people who run the world have. And they did it as a way of like divide and conquer intellectually. I think there's something to be said for that, and it happened even more so after you get everybody so specialized out they can't think outside of their own tunnel vision. There's too much of that going on now, I think.
Well, I think you're right. I with specializing, this thing that I think that's kind of well, I think of in terms, the only thing I really study pretty passionately outside, like understanding art and art history. Is that I read a lot about history. Like
there's a lot of it.
Yeah, and it can get very distracting. So you kind of do have to specialize in the sense if you want to have a good feeling of a particular era.
Yeah.
You know, so I spent 10 years reading lots of books on like World War II, and then I'm like, oh well.
Yes.
But you learn a lot about things
Right.
along the way.
Right.
Because in order
right.
to understand,
Yeah.
let's say about Blitzkrieg, you have to kind of understand how like the development of the tank went along,
right,
or like how different people had viewed aerial warfare, and so it all does kind of geopolitics with Karl Haushofer, you know. So you do have to understand with your specialization, with your understanding, if you really keep an open mind or an open interest in things, it's hard not to get sidetracked and start going.
Well, we want to get to your art, and we want to show some of your editing and all that, because we're going to get to the fact that you are a video editor extraordinaire.
Oh, thanks.
And I love your work. I've loved it ever since I first saw it. I used to get my friend to wake me up at 1:30 in the morning so I wouldn't miss one golden moment of concrete TV as it was being broadcast. But anyway, the thing is that well, now I forgot what it is that we wanted to.
Oh, you want to show a clip or something?
Well, we do want to do. We want to get to that, but there was something else that was coming up in my head. Now I've lost it. That was coming out of what we were talking about. Specializing and all that sort of thing, and it's gone now. So we'll have to go on. Maybe we could talk some now about the fact that you are a video editor, and I'm telling you that in the audience that it was broadcast. I'm going to say it. I'm not sure if you maybe don't want to, but was it a Rolling Stone magazine, a major magazine?
My biggest claim to fame was the picture in Rolling Stone, and it becomes a thing because in my generation more than Harold's generation even, that song "Get Your Picture in Rolling Stone" was like a big hit in the '70s. It was like a one-hit wonder.
Yeah.
And there was Rolling Stone's fallen out of its its obvious heyday, but to get your picture in Rolling Stone is always like in rock culture.
It's not only in Rolling Stone. It's not only the picture in Rolling Stone as good as that picture is and that sort of thing. But it also said of your work, they said that it is the best television in all of America
for that year.
And there was another one that was Time Out magazine who said it is the best television program available in the world.
Well,
I believe there was a quote to that effect, and they were referring to your concrete TV editing.
Yeah, I get.
It is masterful.
Oh, thank you. I get concrete TV over the years, not lately, but back in its heyday.
Yeah.
After the Rolling Stone article.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of newspapers and magazines like Time Out voted me like #1 show, cable show, and all that stuff.
Not a small matter.
No,
That's all of cable.
It was all great. There was a period there where I got lots of stuff in High Times magazine and Black Book and all this different write-ups and hubbub.
That's when you build up your big financial portfolio.
Oh, I became huge. I bought so much Google, Yahoo, Apple stock.
Yeah.
It was given to me actually.
Yeah.
But no, none of it panned out.
Yeah,
I never made much of money at all. The only money I have to admit, the only money I've ever really accrued from Concrete TV at the time, anyway. Was that I had done 2 promotional videos for Rockstar Games.
Okay.
And they paid me pretty generously.
Okay, that's in the realm of video games. That's huge. I know. I don't know much about it, but I know it's huge.
I didn't use much of their footage. They were pretty cool. They wanted something that would attract attention at they have these electronics fairs.
Yeah.
I think at the first electronics fair, I did the first and second electronics fair in Los Angeles. It's the big gaming convention where buyers come to buy, video games.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I had a big monitor at one of their displays, and they would show Concrete TV, at least some Concrete TV stuff I had done for them. And those were paying gigs. And lately I've been selling some DVDs, but other than that,
No, I was making a joke about it because what I'm talking about is an art form.
Oh, yeah.
And what you did, and ladies and gentlemen, he used to and we're going to show some clips, right? We got some clips of it. And I visited him where he was doing it and so forth, and he put together these clips that are so artful and so funny and so pushing the envelope, as it were, in terms of understanding things and everything. And he was doing it with 2 VHS machines.
That's how I still do it.
Tell us how you did that before we play the first clip.
Yeah.
Well, how did you put these things together and what it is? It's very fast clips, and it's very it's got a music, it's got a dialogue, and so the concrete TV. What is it, and how did you put it together?
Well, 10 years. It's now people call it like video mashup. I was doing it 10 years before that term came around, and no, I'm not the originator of the fast cut. I don't know how to describe it. Video montage.
Yeah.
I definitely am not the originator of video montage. There was a very good, and I think these were the influences. At the beginning of, I think it's Seven Beauties by Linda Worthmuller.
Okay, yeah.
Lena,
okay.
Lena, is that Lena Worthmuller?
Did she do Seven Beauties, was it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
It's the Italian film director. And at the beginning, there's this great montage where they play, this guy sings this French song, and there's these bombings. There's a scene in Clockwork Orange where they expose him to the ultraviolence and do the thing with his eyes open up, and they go through a video montage. Then there was Down and Out in Beverly Hills where they had a really interesting video montage. The movie Tapeheads. Anyway, there were things that I think I learned from those things, or was captivated by this way of approaching television or media, and I just took it to the next degree. I was able to do it in a way, knock on wood, nobody's been able to replicate or compete with by doing it in a 28-minute format.
Yeah,
really.
absolutely.
With the intensity and what appears to be, to some people's way of thinking, it's funny. And it's got a little bit of a narrative. It wakes people up. There's gay porn, there's straight porn, there's gyrating naked men and women, explosions,
and there's also
car crashes.
Yeah, it's an art form, and you fast cuts, and you would do, but it also had an integrity that went through it because So
I have a knack for some reason. I have a knack for
it.
It's
like Van Gogh was pretty good with a brush. And a canvas. It's like an art thing.
I'm lucky.
And you've been able to do it, and you were doing it in a way that was it wasn't as though it was some great big fancy algorithm thing worked out or something. People are starting to do that now, I think, with algorithms to do fast cuts and stuff.
I've also, one of my claims to fame as well is that I do it all in analog.
Yeah.
And people always say, why don't you use a computer?
Yeah.
And that, it's like, why don't I use a computer to do my paintings? Why don't I use a computer to do the collages I do? Why don't I use a computer to have sex with my girlfriend? Why don't I have a computer to have dinner?
Right.
It seems like it's just such a knee-jerk reaction these days to go to some other form than what seems natural.
Well, that's a big part of what's going on is the internet and all the things that are going on.
I kind of like my sex analog.
I do, right.
I kind of like my lunch analog. I kind of, in actuality, most things I prefer to be analog.
Analog,
when it comes right down to it, I like my, my music, my people, my vacations, all to be in real time.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, we're going to do something now because what we're going to do, we're talking with him, and he's an artist extraordinaire, in my opinion. And also a great sense of humor and everything. So we got a couple of clips you brought in, right?
Okay.
So I guess Roberto in the booth, maybe you could set up one of the clips and we'll run it 5 or 6 minutes to let them see what the kind of work you've done in video. We're going to do that, and we want to get to some of your painting, which you're coming to now, and design and so forth toward the end of this. But set that up and run one of the first tapes now, then, Roberto, if you would, and show and pump it in here, please.
Gone far enough. On my own authority, I'm aborting this thing. There's no need for any further death. Maybe just one more.
Where do we go from here? Where do we go from here? Nothing to teach at home, McDonald's, stick my face into the ground.
Breaker 19 calling all trucks. Anyone who don't like the sound of Mexico can speak up now or split.
I never understood a single word he said, but I helped him a drink his wine. And he always had somebody fine, singing your
It's intermission time, folks. And that means it's time for a tasty snack.
Sometimes I think you're one fucked up gringo.
He pulled the trigger and shakes shake, shake, well, well. That's the end of my guitar friend burning out on the kiss and tell.
And there you have it. Well, no one leaves.
We must evacuate. We can't survive here.
No one leaves. Get back to your posts.
Now is the time.
And now for a special treat.
Stay tuned. Looks like it's going to be a good show tonight.
You just don't get high from it. It blows your mind to pieces. After a couple of doses of that stuff, Ted, you're finished forever. It deteriorates the brain.
What happens then?
Well, I think it's the effect. It's going to happen again.
Let's go! Girl, you really got me going. You got me so I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, you really got me now. You got me so I can't sleep at night.
Put on a cartoon. Maybe that'll calm them down.
All right, boys, let's make some music, huh?
What the? Oh!
Getting tired of that crap.
Why don't you change it? Y si no está, brindaré por la luna, buscaré lo mío y nada importa. Si no está, buscaré hasta encontrar. Si no se atraviesa, algún otro va. No me importa que si tengo estilo, no me importa si soy el mismo tipo.
Nazis. I hate these guys.
Is he kidding?
Oh, by the way, may I just say one?
So it's that's it. When was that one from? Do you recognize these, or you put so much together? And
It's funny because people sometimes will write me a letter. Well, no one writes letters anymore. But someone will email me or call me possibly, and they'll ask me, "Oh, what's this clip from?" And I would
They
say
have no
9 times
idea.
out of 10, I have no idea what they're talking
how
about.
do you put it together? You had a thing with Tower Records. You got a lot of video,
Oh,
and you have
back in
video.
the day.
How do you put all those things together? Do you have it organized in some way on a shelf somewhere
Well,
so
there's
that you can get the
there's a-
violent things?
Yeah,
or
there's a bit of it. There you go.
Yeah.
Well, you have the right idea.
Well,
I will basically the if you call it a trick, but the process goes is that you find the segue material, you put that all on one tape, you find all the motorcycle crashes, all the car crashes, all the gyrating.
you got them all broken down that way.
Yeah,
right?
okay. I have tapes and tapes of the bits and pieces.
Yeah.
The concept kind of came about through this Well, Roger Corman, for an example, has this belief of like being able to, when he would shoot a movie, a good example would be that, I don't know if everybody saw American Graffiti, but and it's the same car in 2-lane blacktop, and they use the same car in several other films. Because when they were shooting American Graffiti, they bought, or they purchased and then souped up three or four of those 57 or 56 Chevys.
Yeah, it was great.
The black ones they had.
Yeah. My favorite was a 54 Pontiac I had. It was great.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so the car that they used in American Graffiti is the same car, or one of the leftover cars in 2-lane blacktop, and then they use it in a bunch of other films. And what Roger Corman quickly found out, or realized early on, and if you watch a movie like Ed Wood, you know, that great movie by,
Ed Wood,
Tim
the
Burton,
worst director in the history of America. Or
yeah. But what you do is you take the money shots.
Yeah, right.
You know, like the stock
Bela
footage.
Lugosi.
You take the stock footage, and then you can reuse it in a different context.
Right.
And
yeah, you can mash up.
Yeah.
As they call it that now, right?
So Roger Corman would shoot the money shots, and then shoot them at an angle so you can't see the driver, which is helpful because the stars may not be the same people, so that's one of the reasons to shoot at an angle.
That's
also
a trick,
so you couldn't see the stunt driver, and then you could reuse that expensive either explosion, you know, car crash. You could reuse it in different movies.
So when you were cutting a thing, you had a VHS tape. Say a lot of them came out of the video store.
Almost all came off
VHS.
of VHS.
Okay, coming from one VHS machine with the yellow, white, red, and that. And everything, and then you're over here recording a master edit, and you would take a tape and put it in to get that 5-second clip, and then another tape in, put it in to get the 5-second clip, and all that kind of thing. A lot of work.
Yeah, the first, I mean, I don't know what the estimate, how to do the math on this, but for the first 5 years of doing the show, I would spend an inordinate amount of time. It actually ruined relationship with the girlfriend that I was
because you were too committed to your work.
Yeah, she'd come home from work.
That happens. Yeah,
she'd come home from work and say, "Let's have dinner and go hang out." You
say, "I'm too busy getting the final."
One
cut,
more minute. One more
Right.
minute. Right. I'll be there in a second.
Right.
And I'll be there in a second.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, seconds turn into hours.
Yeah, I know.
You know, or I should say, seconds turn into minutes. Minutes turn into hours.
It's an art form. You're an artist. They had a lot of problems. People, you have a hard time when somebody's really got it coming on the canvas. You can't pull them away from the canvas because they're at work.
Well,
and you're really,
once said that, and I don't know if it's all art. I would imagine it's all art forms, and artists suffer from girlfriends or boyfriends who feel that their artist girlfriend and boyfriend
I spend too much time on the work
and don't love them as much.
Right, because it's
this whole competition
that's a problem
thing.
That's the thing that exists in the human condition for anybody who's they see you're obsessed with something.
I actually would.
You never cut your ear off, did you? No, you haven't cut your ear off.
No, but I play with my ears.
Yeah, that's right.
Maybe I'm thinking about it.
Right.
But I actually have no problem with dating somebody who loves something more than me. I mean, I don't really.
That's interesting.
I don't really care.
Something more than you?
Well, a passion.
Yeah.
You know, I prefer.
Yeah, I
prefer
too.
not be to vanilla ice cream or something.
Right.
But I would like it if they had like a passion.
I think it would be great. I think it would be great if everybody in the world had a passion.
Yeah,
or
I
something
think it's
that they're really engaged in, that they're really, rather than taking their cues from outside.
Yeah, not something stupid like shopping or
well, that's
their
what
hair
that is. That's just a kind of rote thing that they're done, and
alcohol or something. But I mean, I think if it's something reasonably creative or something that's like studying history or something that involves a process of thinking, committing themselves, even exercise to a degree. Though I think that like devoting yourself to like. And I did for many years. I actually, when I was very committed to running at one time, and I actually went 3 years with only missing 2 days.
I was so running.
Yeah, I was
running
very committed to running. I ran a couple of marathons back in the day.
You ran the whole marathon, New York marathon?
Yeah, well, actually...
That's 20-odd miles or something?
Yeah, but I ran actually the Boston Marathon back in the day. In like 1979, 1980, I ran the Boston Marathon.
You ran the whole thing?
When you were a kid.
I have a hard time running to 8th Avenue to catch a bus. I don't know
1979, 1980, when you were just in high school.
Right.
I was out there.
Oh, you were seriously, you were athletic, huh?
Yeah, but I back then also one of the things that's changed in sports, just as like an aside to this whole thing, is that You remember this? People used to take salt tablets, and there was a whole thing. I don't know where they got it from, like the French Foreign Legion or something.
Well, yeah.
But athletes used to train and not drink water. It was like, I don't know, like coaches or.
Yeah.
You remember this back
I
in the day?
don't remember. I was athletic, but I don't remember being like seriously.
Yeah,
like
in the
I
early
remember salt tablets in the Army.
Yeah.
I was in Death Valley in August. And
ridiculously,
we
they're
needed
bad
salt
for you. They dry you out. It's the stupidest thing.
Yeah, but you're what? Yeah, well, okay.
Taking
Or the
salt
worst was Kansas. Kansas was worse than Death Valley.
Oh yeah. But I'm just saying that like there was a whole backward. I don't know if everybody remembers Alberto Salazar, but he was the first guy. I think he ran was the first thing to break.
Was it
We had the world record for a while.
Okay.
He was at the University of Oregon. He
in what?
Alberto Salazar in the marathon.
Oh,
he
in
had
the
world
marathon.
record
I
for a
haven't
while.
followed it carefully. Yeah.
Anyway, when he was training to run the marathon, he had to train himself to drink water.
Really?
The generation that I still can't drink when I run. I hate to stop.
You run the whole 26 miles without drinking water?
Well, not anymore. But let's say
you did.
The last road race I ran in, which was years ago, because I'm heavier and I don't train the way I used to.
You seem to be in good shape.
I'm in okay shape.
Yeah,
but I used to be 20 pounds lighter.
Really?
Yeah, when I used
God,
to
you'd
race
be you would hardly be
skinny.
seen.
But you know what's funny? I was 20 pounds lighter, and I was actually the second heaviest guy on my cross-country team.
No kidding. Cross-country.
Yeah, skinny guy.
Do you like the loneliness of the long-distance runner?
Well, I know the movie.
Courtney and that. You know?
But I don't think long-distance runners do it because they like the, you know.
It was a good movie.
The loneliness, it should be the loneliness of the long-distance bicycle rider because those guys train a lot.
Right.
I mean, bicycle riding. If you compete like Lance Armstrong does, you know, you spend 5 hours a day on the bicycle. It's ridiculous.
I once met a guy who bicycled all around the world. All around the world. He'd gone. Abbott Dunkley. I met him in Berlin, and he had gone all around the world on a bicycle. You know, I mean, that's really good exercise. Swimming's good exercise.
I don't know about going around the world.
No, he had gone all the way down to in South America and all the way.
I don't think he was doing it for exercise.
And then he went. No, he was just going around the world like a thing. And I met him. In
I think you could bicycle
1957,
an hour
he
a
was
day
in Berlin. We were there, and he'd leave his bike on the street, and he had to go back and empty the little canister he had because they were just. And he had been out to all of Africa, and he'd been out to Asia on this bicycle.
What would he see?
And he was strong as an ox.
Oh, I bet. What was he emptying? A can of what?
Money. They were putting money because it's like the Wanderlust, you know, or the Goa One. It was like a thing because he had set this record. He'd been.
Oh, people were supporting him.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and we'd have a beer or something, and then he'd have to go and empty the canister with all the pfennigs and marks and things.
You might be losing people, so let me just.
Yeah, we're going to lose people.
Let me tie it back though. The whole idea was passion, and I was very passionate about running.
Right.
And my thing, I guess my original point was that, you know, you can be passionate about. I just like it when people are passionate about something other than something, which I think is kind of moronic, like being a big Star Wars. No offense to Star Wars fans, but if you're like a fanatical Star Wars fan or something, and that's how you devote yourself, it seems a little shallow.
Yeah, that isn't really. You're talking about an art and people that have a real purpose and meaningful.
Yeah, it's sort of like an engagement with it. I mean, I think that if you engage Star Wars in a creative way, like people have done this online movie, you know, I don't know if you heard of Lord of the Rings, where they created a movie online, a separate story. That's creative. I mean, people do creative things with their like their fanism or their fanaticism in that sense. But I think it's more than just following something like following baseball statistics. I think it's participating. I mean, funny thing is, I've never watched a professional football, baseball. I've watched soccer games from beginning to end, but I've never watched a full basketball, baseball, or football game from beginning to end, or a hockey game.
How about golf? Golf would be even less.
I've never watched a whole golf game.
Yeah, right. Okay.
And I think I might.
Was that because you're manically running around doing stuff?
I find it a little boring.
Boring, yeah.
But
what don't you find boring? What can hold your attention
on
for
television?
Hours? I know that you
tons
do
of stuff.
Yes, I guess
tons of bad movies.
It's hard to know how to rate them all.
I've watched more bad movies than anybody.
Oh,
can
you
imagine.
do, right?
And like I was saying before, my first 5 years of Concrete TV, I watched 5 to 7 movies a day.
Okay.
For 5 years.
Through the process of doing
what I would do is I'd watch the movie and the
Wait a minute, you're watching a movie you're going to create, or you're going to take clips from?
No, I'm going to take clips from it. I pop the movie in, let's say whatever it happens to be, Star Wars.
So how many movies would you include in one of those 28-minute segments?
Well, I don't know. I don't
or
keep
pieces.
track.
No, just in a rough. No, a little
I have
more
no
quantitative.
idea. I mean, you know,
100 different movies, or
more than that.
More than 100 in a 28-minute piece. Because those are little quick clips you do, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
But I would pop the tape in. I keep a piece of paper handy, and I write down the time codes of the scenes I like.
Not time code, really. It would probably be just numbers.
Well, the numbers, yeah, but not because the tapes aren't time coded.
Yeah, right.
No, but I would time code.
Yeah, okay. Your own
so
system,
I use my own time code, and I use my own shorthand.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
So I could watch the movie. I don't have to. I don't want to stop.
You got it in your head.
Yeah, I don't want to stop the tape.
And you got it also the audio and the video both.
Yeah. So if I find a snippet that I like,
art. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So I'm always looking, trying to get excited when I run across.
When you make a good cut. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I get excited when somebody says hard. You know, when they use because there's certain expressions I really like.
Right.
And I key on those. And there's certain things that are that are rare that you come across that I really like.
Yeah.
Like a bicycle crash for some reason. I really like a bicycle.
You seem to do that. You have one down there at the thing where it's about death.
Yeah,
like, like Sonny and Godfather, where he gets shot. You had a thing and goes for about 10 minutes of people being shot.
Well, that's one of my most famous. I actually did
that was really
a few
funny.
shorts, and the Dance of Death is I think what you're talking.
Death. You don't have that one with you.
No, I did a piece that traveled around quite a lot. That was the one that went to festivals and stuff. And that piece, Dance of Death, appeared at the New York Film Festival, Slam Dance.
Oh, it did. It did. Yeah. That was funny. I mean, I found it funny. You were meant to find it. I find your work very funny.
Well, it's parodic. You know, it's obviously pointing up the shortcomings
of the human
media obsession.
Or media, yeah.
I also, what's odd about it is that, as gratuitous as it may seem, it's meant to take you beyond the gratuitous aspects of movies. In other words, by focusing on the cliches, it becomes harder. It's become very hard for me to enjoy a lot of films that are just cliche on cliche on cliche.
And there's a lot of cliche.
Oh yeah, and even when, I saw that movie.
McLuhan wrote well on that.
Well, I watched Pineapple Express a little while ago when it came out. I don't know if you know this movie anyway. But in it, I read all these reviews saying how they had taken the cliches and gone sideways with it, or taken the cliches and taken them a little bit further. And I didn't find it really that much more amusing than watching another one of those Jackie Chan movies with whatever his name
they
is.
do that.
Rush Hours, all those Rush Hours. Those things are just riddled with bad cliches.
Yeah, right.
And or the same old cliches. I mean, that's what they are.
So you can recycle those things sometimes for the good comic effect too. You can
but
juxtapose things.
I don't know if it's like an end.
I love the things where you used to have Joyce Brothers. And Joyce Brothers, the very sweet thing is she would say, "We just can't stand this violence," and then boom, 5 minutes of violence in all its forms of car crashes and gunshots and all that kind of stuff.
Well,
it's really funny.
Oh,
you must have a great sense of humor and fun making those. Are you still doing that, or are you going over into art? Are you going into
there's a segue.
Okay.
That's a good segue.
Okay, a segue.
But I got a joke about that.
Okay,
talk. About segues.
Okay.
So, you know those things?
The little things you can ride around on.
The segues. When they're at a meeting at a Segway factory or whatever, and they want to make a Segway, what do they say?
They say, I don't know. What do they say? Well, let's go Segway?
Yeah,
Segway,
So they're kind of stuck when they want to make a Segway at the Segway when they're having a meeting. Anyway.
Yeah.
So, the
you're having fun inside your head.
I try to.
Yes,
I try to.
Yeah.
So I have
probably more than the law allows, young man.
That's true. But I needed recently. I needed a little bit of a break because actually doing concrete TV can make you a little bit crazy.
I bet it would, but it'd be a good crazy or bad crazy?
No, it's a bad crazy.
Bad crazy.
It's a bad
But there was
crazy.
a lot of good crazy at the time. You had a lot of creative stuff. And when you're upset, when you're really doing something like that, that's really great. It engages the organism. And it's really creative.
But I think after 18 years, you deserve to have a couple of, a little bit of time off. And that's what it was. I mean,
you have other talents you can develop, too, other than that one. But you developed it to a fine edge. And when you got these people saying it's the best television in all of America.
Yeah, that can motivate you, but at the same time.
No. The point is, not motivate. The hell with what they think. You know it's good, and you're doing something. You're creating something really good. That's what really makes life worth living, rather than just
I like
filling out a mundane function in the world.
I think so, but people that I respect like it, and people who I don't respect like it. I mean, it's nice just to have people like some art form that you do, of course.
Yeah.
But I just, after 18...
Or anything you do.
Oh, yeah. But doing it after 18 years, I needed a bit of a break, so I made some paintings.
Yeah, you've done that. We
some
want to get to
collages.
that, too. We're going to segue to that in a minute,
Yeah.
okay? But it's like the Balinese have... What do you think about art? Do you think art is a thing
What about the Balinese?
Well, the Balinese have a saying, we have no art.
Oh, we have life or something.
No, we have no art. We do everything as well as possible.
Oh, that's nice.
Because is art the thing of only the Michelangelos and the few and the Van Gogh and the people that he's painting all those paintings that nobody cared about? Because is art the antenna of the race? Is there a rarefied place for the artist that's really creative, or
the race?
The Balinese say we do everything as well, like cooking, gardening, things like that. Everyday things are done well, and somebody's got a sense of that. And how do we get the people who have the feeling of the sensitivity in life of what they're doing, that they take great pleasure in what they're doing, even though it may be something that isn't high art or seen as high? Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
You think we can get to where everybody has that sense of feeling, well, that's really a good pumpkin pie, or what the hell ever they're doing, even though it seems mundane from some. I understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I kind of take umbrage with when people use the expression art just because they do something well.
Yeah, okay.
I think that, if you're a good golfer and you do it really well, I don't think
Tiger Woods.
Well, there's nothing, artistic about that.
Well,
but I do think
try it.
No, but I do that's a skill.
Yeah.
I can do something.
Well, is the cutting of a video a skill? It is just
well, of course, but it's the creative process that goes into the creative thinking. It's actually it's tied to innovation. It's tied to the notion of design. It's tied to a visual thing. I actually do have a bit of a prejudice that art is in the category of visual. I guess it can be audio, of course. But like I guess it's classical in the notion that. Or even Russian in the sense of the plastique arts, the concrete arts.
Right.
And I kind of go along with that, where art's kind of limited in my way of thinking, painting, sculpture, architecture, music, poetry.
Yeah.
And that those things are, and then you can do something really
Those would be like what you call
that.
the goods of civilization in a sense, other than, like I'm from Detroit and they had factories where people would go and 8 hours a day they would turn a nut at the same place. It's sort of a thing that gets to be really,
but when somebody
it's not.
When somebody does something,
there's no way to justify that.
But people do creative things
all the time. They do it for the
time.
money. They do it because they have to earn money to eat and everything.
Yeah. But people do creative things all the time.
Yeah.
And
I see Academy Award performances every day. I walk through New York City. Just if it was captured, the camera happened to be at the right angle with the right light.
Well, people do creative things in just terms of like what we used to call Mickey Mouse or jerry-rigging something. They'll come along and they'll fix something by using some gum and some tape. They'll do Mr. MacGyver. They'll do something very creative.
Yeah.
And you can take that, but their intention is to make it work. They're actually not trying to make a visual art form.
Right.
They're just doing something creatively to fix something.
Yeah.
It's all function.
I wished I was better at fixing things than I is. I'm not too good at it. Be making a light bulb, But in McLuhan, I used to measure. McLuhan was really wired in an interesting way. He was a really brilliant fellow, and never could get close to him. But I did visit with him, and he used to say, "Action's at the interface." And when you're doing, it's like action is at the interface, and it's like you got two or pattern recognition. You got pattern recognition between two subsystems, and that's where the action is there. And it's like that's the creative thing is at the interface between two systems.
And that's where the art comes out of? Is that
yeah. He was a great fan of James Joyce, and he would write the way he write and everything like that. He could understand.
I kind of think...
But I'm wondering, is art something that is appropriate to everyone? The 100 trillion cells in the human organism, they all matter.
Well,
they're all part of a system.
Marx said we should all have time to...
Can everyone be an artist? Can everyone be an artist?
Oh yeah, everybody can be a really bad artist.
Well, I meant in the best sense of the word about how you're engaged.
Well, I think people.
Is it important to have a sense of purpose or creative sense of accomplishing something other than a mundane thing?
Can you teach people to be creative?
Well, I don't know.
Can you structurally force them to be creative?
I don't know. It seems contradictory.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yeah,
I think
I hate
kind of what I'm getting at. I don't really think that I don't want to sound like some sort of elitist or like that I don't believe in the common person or the common man.
Right.
But I think that most people are kind of dopey and just want to do their dopey thing.
Well, they're made to
I mean,
do
the
that.
society
Or
made-
it's called practical.
Yeah.
Be practical and do what you have to do. And there's a lot of that built into the to the structure of this social organization
But
of the society.
to blame society.
Like those guys, or ladies, young ladies in place has to go and sew something, and they do it because it's cheap labor.
Oh, yeah,
and they have to do the same
I don't
damn
think-
thing for 12 hours
but I
a
don't
day or
necessarily
something.
think it's
Or
a-
they chain little children to looms in Pakistan.
Oh yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily even a class thing, because you could be extremely privileged and wealthy and still be extremely stupid and still not have a creative bone in your body,
Yeah.
not want to do anything creative. So I don't think it's a class thing.
Okay. You don't. Okay.
I mean,
I
people
don't-
could think that they have taste and they're creative and
Yeah.
they're like whatever. They could just be bougie and silly. And
Yeah,
they
right.
buy their taste. You know, they think because they own a Van Gogh,
Yeah.
that somehow they
Yeah, they're Van Gogh. Right?
Exactly.
They're
And
not. But
they're two different
that's
things.
all commodity. And
But I
things.
think you can, obviously you can be creative in business or science, architecture,
Yeah.
sports, whatever.
Right.
Sometimes I think of creative athletes.
Yeah.
I think was his name Fred Farnsworth, the guy who first jumped over backwards from the high jump.
I don't know that. No. Yeah.
Well, everybody,
Yeah.
in the high jump,
Yeah.
it's just a
Yeah,
pole
yeah,
and you just
right.
jump over it.
Mm.
The standard way of doing it was just lunging at it this way and going
Uh-huh.
over it. And then
And
some
he-
guy decided that then there was the scissors,
Yeah.
which
Okay.
was a very popular way
Yeah.
of going over. I think was some German way, and then was anyway. This American came along. I forget from what university he was at. Tall, obviously a tall guy.
Yeah.
And he decided that the more creative way was to approach the high
Careful
beams.
your
I'm
mic.
gonna-
Your
yeah,
mic
put
for the
mic
wire. You're
And so-
wired.
wired.
Mm.
And so he would jump over it this way, like what you most
Yeah.
commonly
Yeah.
see now.
Yeah,
And
you
it
see
turns
always.
out, and that was revolutionary
Mhm.
to approach high jumping from an angle and go over it that way. And he was creative enough to come up with that. Does that make him an artist? I don't really think so. But it makes him very creative, and he definitely revolutionized that sport.
Anyway, I'm glad
Set
you've
new
been able to
records.
have so many moments of your life filled with the sense of satisfaction of having done something very artfully.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that's an important part of a well-led life in a certain sense, and to have that
Thank you,
capability or a sense of that about what you're
Harold.
doing. If we can engage everyone, and autodidact, I like the idea too that it's all coming from your own thing, your own thing, and that we don't have to see people like sheep.
Well, I think that,
The mass.
Yeah, I think,
Or
I guess
people
I'm thinking
just doing
about it now.
mundane things in order to eat.
Well, I think the thing is
Bread.
that people have to be, Marx said that everybody should have time to do poetry.
All right, yeah,
And
that
so-
might be true. It might be. It's coming.
And
Actually, it might be
and I
coming
think
to
that-
where we're going to need venues that are not market. The one thing that really drives the whole society of the world is the market and the money. That's what it's all about. That's the most prominent thing that people are cued into, is the idea of what you have to do practically. You might want to be with your daughter who's having an emotional something, or you can't. You got to get to the job. You got to get to the assembly line, turn that nut, and do that. And that's everything above everything. That's above everything else. All the human values. But
Well,
we
I-
may be coming to a liberated moment where everybody could become like an autodidactic artist and be concerned with the, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think
rather than the mundane things you have to do in an assembly line kind of view of human organization.
Well, when I was in college, and I think I had mentioned that I had the degree was in art and art education. I took
Yeah.
a lot of education classes when I was in university, and they had actually had a huge influence on me. And I had a professor that was very cool and very together, and what he felt was very important and goes along this subject was that people needed to be taught, or shown how to use their leisure time better. Which may be at the heart of a lot of things: gang problems, drugs,
I think
alcoholism,
leisure is coming.
gambling.
I think leisure is coming en masse for virtually everybody, but it's going to be leisure. You can be leisure and you can be poor. I mean,
Oh,
you
of
can't
course.
eat.
No.
So that negative outer-directed influence is going to be going away. I think the people are.
But
going
everybody
to be able
has
to. Be leisure.
everybody has to wait in line. Everybody has to at some point. Everybody gets bored, and like Jenny Halser says, boredom makes you do crazy things. And I think that the more bored you are, I mean, how many times? Maybe you're too old to remember this, or not young enough.
I'm old enough to remember almost anything.
But when I was a kid,
man.
and still to this day, I just won't hang around with anybody that says, "What do you want to do?" I don't know. What do you want to do?
Marty, Marty, what are we going to do tonight, Marty?
Exactly.
Yeah.
When the conversation gets around to that and nobody says anything interesting, and so if someone says, "Oh, I'm bored," I know it's time for me to go do something that
Well,
I like,
I'll tell you
that I
one thing,
enjoy
it's
to
very
do.
hard to be bored if you keep your alert, because there's a revolution coming over the transom from every field, and there's so much going on in the world. It's so interesting. One of the problems that you have this tyranny of time, we're running out of time.
Tyranny of time.
Want to show a little bit of your work, right?
Artwork.
They've got the artwork.
painting
You're
stuff.
doing that now, and you're doing a lot of collage work and that kind of stuff. We've only got about 5 minutes left.
Oh, wow.
But let's get a few of those
That
images
would buy pretty
in.
well. That would buy pretty smoothly.
Well, yeah, but we ought to get some of those in. So here we go. Now, what do you got
Well,
there?
that's
so
a-
talk to it. You can see it, so you can talk to it.
Well, it says oi or oi.
Now, this is your work, right?
Yeah,
This
it's
is
a painting that I did.
You're painted. You do it. What is it? Acrylic?
Herman and Catnip. It's based on a cartoon.
Yeah, but what's the medium?
It's oil on canvas.
Oil. You use oil?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's
And
very good. Yeah.
36 by 48 inches.
Big. Yeah.
Relatively big.
Yeah.
This strawberry shortcake. Which, if you look close enough, you can see that she's wearing a button that says "Now." National Organization of Women.
Yeah, yeah.
Although
yeah.
strawberry shortcake, when
Yeah.
I'm reading the cartoons, wait for strawberry shortcake.
Yeah,
There's
come
a
back if you can. Can you
that's
go back?
okay.
Yeah, there
there's
you go.
strawberry
Yeah.
shortcake. It turned this painting is extremely popular with my friends.
Yeah. Oh, it's lovely. Yeah,
and
sweet. Yeah.
I don't know why everybody's
Hey,
so crazy about strawberry shortcake.
I love strawberry shortcake.
Well,
with cream.
Well, she's interesting as a cartoon character to me because how she resolves conflict is by either throwing strawberries at people or baking them pies.
Baking pie's a good idea.
Well, yeah, she bakes strawberry pies.
Yeah, that's an art.
And
yeah.
People seem to.
You got some more of those you can show. There's some more on that DVD of the art. You went to something, Roberto. Maybe you can show the art. There's a good work of art right there. It's named Ron Rocheleau. Rocheleau.
Yeah.
So there you got a cat, and this is your thing.
And these cats.
Is that charcoal or is that paint?
No, that's actually
paint.
oil on canvas. It's
Oil,
also 36 by 48 inches. And I did a series of these cats. That one's Nefertiti. I named them different things, but that one's actually originally named Nefertiti. They're appropriated from some artists from the 60s called Prego. And you used to be able to buy these things out of comic books.
Right. Yeah.
For $2, they'd give you a set of 4 of them. But my thing to do with them, they were in color originally, and I rendered them in black and white to make them more stark. Also to one of my concerns, with what I make the collage work or I did the paintings, one of the things that interests me is virtuosity.
Virtuosity, yeah.
Well, in other words, you look at some things that have standards, especially in classical music.
Michelangelo.
Well, or classical music. It has a standard.
Yeah.
You perform a certain piece in a certain time, and they reference whether you did it as well as this particular violinist or this particular violinist. And those standards exist in jazz. And then if you do covers of
the canon,
rock songs,
the
canon.
Yeah, in any field.
Yeah, and so I'm kind of drawn. Maybe it's my.
You're creative.
Well, I'm creative, but at the same time,
And it's at the interface. It's in the outside. The fish can't see the water swimming, and you got to be outside. It's creative. Something new. At the interface of systems.
Well, my thing is like I said before, I'm very deeply interested in analog.
Yeah.
And so the paintings are analog. They're very much like a hands-on. There's a signature in the style. There's a signature in the brush. You can taste. You can see the human effort. You can see my hand.
Yeah.
Which is funny because in the art world, especially something like photography.
Yeah.
Where in Walter Beheman, the writer, the theorist, they talked about the whole dilemma that was introduced with photography.
Yeah.
Because what's the original reproduction?
Yeah.
I mean, what makes a photograph original once it's beyond the print? I mean, what makes you print one print or 1,000 prints or a million prints?
That's what the digital age is delivering to us now.
Yeah. So with the digital age, what makes an original whatever DVD?
Yeah.
It's like.
Yeah.
When I sell my DVDs, I actually do make it a limited edition because that's all I can do to give them worth, and I sign each one.
Okay.
And which hopefully gives it some worth, and I'm gonna stick to that limited edition. What kind of makes me angry sometimes is when I think we're over, aren't we?
No, we're not over. It's over. It's still there. It's still there.
No, I just like to make keep everything kind of analog. And with the paintings. I guess the break that I needed from concrete TV and the reason I did the paintings was because I wanted to just do something that was more physical than the tape.
Yeah, I can understand. Yeah,
Because
you could branch out and you did it. Thanks for the body of work, the whole over.
Yeah, if
everything.
you get a chance to see the
You do
paintings,
great stuff. I want to
know.
see more of that. We're getting in touch. And thanks for Concrete TV. I agree, it's some of the best television ever produced in
thanks,
this universe. Or
you're a
don't know
gentleman.
about a parallel universe, but in this universe is some of the best,
and I just wanna
funniest, and most artful editing that I've ever seen. I really
I
congratulate
really
you.
love the compliments, and
Yeah.
I appreciate them. And I just want to let everybody know that I hope I didn't insult anybody.
Dude, I hope not. Who would you insult? Why
I
would
don't
you insult?
know.
You're such a, yeah, I know. Anyway, your pleasure. Ron Rocheleau.
Rocheleau, yeah. I have a
Rocheleau,
tendency
right?
of...
And your pleasure to have his perception. We're coming back again tomorrow, so please tune in, and that's it. Ron, thanks a lot for such a well-led life that continues. Really a great
Always a
pleasure
pleasure,
talking
man.
to you. Okay. Okay.